Hello, my fellow revolutionaries. Welcome to The Tip here at Agenda.com, where the truth is our only agenda. I am having myself a wonderful chai latte. This is good. I need it. If you would like to know why, because we are at war. We're at war, people. We're at war with the progressives. We got to start educating our fellow man because the progressives are out there educating them with falsehoods. I was up last night. I'll tell you what's going on. I was up last night till probably about 3 o'clock in the morning fighting the war against progressives in regards to taxation. Woo! I'll tell you what's going on here, my friends. We got this whole thing we talked about last week about the fiscal cliff and wanting to tax the rich and stuff. And right now, what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of people that are coming out complaining about taxes. You're like, we're taxed enough already. And we are. But what is the left going to do? The left sits there and they're going to come out and say, quit complaining, you're only taxed an effective rate of about 30%. Or they're going to say maybe 40% or 26%. Well, that's because if you go and Google or research effective tax rate on Americans, here's what you're gonna see. You're going to see reports that come out that say the average citizen pays approximately about a 30% overall effective tax rate, okay? And they're gonna say that the top earners here pay an effective rate of approximately anywhere between 55% to 75, not 75%, my apologies. We'll get to that in a minute. Anywhere between 55 to 57%. Had the 7 and 5 there backwards. What I find very interesting about that is the government is lying to you. Okay? They're lying to you. Let me go over to this chalkboard. Before we started this company and got into the production business of informing our fellow Americans on what's going on in our country, I worked in the bank card industry. And what we did was we set it up to where businesses could accept credit cards. Whenever you go and you swipe your card, you know how the machine dials somewhere and someone gives it an approval or disapproval. My company was one of the companies that approved or disapproved it, and we deposited the money to the business owners for all the credit card transactions that they did. We took on the risk of the transactions to prevent against card fraud and things like that, so we would charge what was called a discount rate, which is not a discount at all. It was really the percentage that would be charged on the dollar amount as our fee for processing the transactions. What would happen is if you go out and you Google rates out there for card processing, you're going to see things like 1.27%, interchange plus 0.50%, 1.65%, okay? And then they say, oh, but we've also got a transaction fee of, 20 cents a transaction. I'm all screwed up. This is what happens when you stay up till 3 in the morning. Fighting progressives. But we're at war, people, and war knows no time. 20 cents a transaction. Oh, but then they've got a statement fee, an ST fee here, a statement fee of $10 a month. Then there's the customer service fee of another $5 a month. And, well, we got those wonderful batch fees, right? We got the batch fee that goes down here. Oh, look at that. And that's usually about 25 cents a batch. And they got to do that every day so that they can get the money into their bank accounts. Michael, am I missing any other fees? Oh, wait, PCI compliance, right? PCI compliance fee. That'll run you pretty close to about $15 a month. Mike, got anything else?
Oh, yeah. From other companies?
Oh, so I'm not even scratching the surface, am I?
No.
All right. Okay, so see this jumbled mess here? This is the bank card business, all right? So we say we're going to give you a rate of 1.65%, all right? So if we charge you 1.65% on all your transactions, but then when we add up all these other fees across the board, that means you're going to be paying more than 1.65%. when you factor your total fees of everything and divide that by the amount that was processed, guess what? That's called your effective rate. And what happens is the government is lying to you. The New York Times is lying to you. The New York Post, the mainstream stuff that's out there is lying to you. Let me explain to you why. Because when you go look up what the effective rate is that Americans are taxed by, they'll tell you that the effective rate for the average citizen is 30%, and they'll tell you that the effective rate for top earners is 55 to 57%. But guess what they're doing when they tell you that? They're only including some of the taxes. They're only saying, well, let's only calculate income taxes, and we'll add in property taxes here, and let's include sales tax, and yeah, we'll do that. That's enough. That's enough right there. And this is your guess what? They call it the effective rate. I call it the ineffective rate. And the reason why is because they're not adding this entire list of other taxes that you are charged. They're not calculating in this list right here. Wow, wasn't that an amazing list? And they don't factor all that into here when they're telling you what your effective rate is. Guess what? If you go through and add in the amount of revenue that you paid the government on the gasoline tax that you paid at the pump all year long, when you add in the communication tax that you paid to the phone company for your cell phone bill and your landline bill and your internet bill and all that stuff that you paid in there, when you add in things that you pay like on insurance premium policies, which is what we have here in Hopkins County at 11.5%, when you factor in all these other taxes, and guess what? There's more than the list we just showed you, okay? When you factor all of that in, your real effective rate, your real one, is much more closer to this. Your average citizen is paying anywhere between 48% to 55%, and your top earners are paying anywhere between 60% to 75%. So here we are, fiscal cliff. Let's tax who? The rich? What? Okay. So that's going to take this, the effective rate, higher. Oh, and by the way, just so you know, when we say the word rich, let me tell you who the progressives are really talking about. They want you to think that they're talking about the Warren Buffetts and all those, the Mitt Romneys and all that kind of stuff. Who?
Bill Gates.
Oh, Bill Gates. Who? Gary, give me another one. Who? Multimillionaire.
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z. Hi, Jay-Z. Don't rap about me, okay? Give me another one. All right, no, Gary, you're not going to participate? Okay, Gary's not wanting to participate today. He's a real team player. They're not talking about them. According to the government and their wonderful idea of taxing the rich, if you make $250,000 as a household, a joint thing, you're rich. And if you're an individual and you make $200,000 a year, you're in this category and you're going to be taxed more. Now, we already talked about last week what increasing the tax rate does whenever you're talking about taxing, quote unquote, these top earners. These top earners here that are in that $200,000, $250,000 mark, they're your small business owners. They're your local business, okay? And we already showed you that when you raise their tax rate, it raises their operational expenses, and therefore that trickles down to either layoffs, closing business, or increase in the price of their goods and services, which means that you and I are going to pay even more. Now, here's where this gets real interesting, all right? Here's what the progressives are going to say. This is my favorite part that I love about my job because, I just love exposing the lies. It's so fun. I love staying until 3 o'clock in the morning fighting these guys. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you all only, not you all, but you wonderful progressives, do you all only hate the rich people that are not on your side? What about all the rich people that are on your side, like George Soros? Just curious, because I'm kind of starting to see this unbalanced approach from you all. But here's where I'm going with this. Everything I just told you, the progressives are going to go, the government would never do that. They would never calculate and tell you that your rate is this over here and exclude all this stuff over here. The government doesn't lie. The government's your friend. They're here to take care of you. They're your buddy old pal. Garrett, come here real quick. I'm going to bring Garrett out here real quick. Oh, yes, look at this. Garrett didn't know he was coming on camera, so check this out. Hey, government. Garrett, I just called you government, by the way. Hey, Garrett.
Fine, I can be government.
Garrett, you are now government. Okay?
Me.
Guess what?
What?
I'm a progressive and you're government. Okay?
Oh, you're so pretty.
Thank you, government. Okay? All right, go back.
I feel cheated.
All right. Let me show you something, Mr. Progressive and government lover. Your government already lies to you. They're already doing it. They're doing it right now. They've been doing it now since 1980. And what's funny is even as much as I like Ronald Reagan and a lot of stuff that he said, he's kind of part of he allowed the progressives to kind of calculate his math for him. Let's talk about what I'm talking about here. Oh, wonderful. Guess what? I just got told that we're going to take a commercial break. So when we come back, I'm going to show you where the government is already changing figures and excluding things to get the numbers that they want to put out. All right? We'll be right back after this short break.
Meet Roku, America's #1 box of streaming fun. Over 600 channels and counting. Go ahead, pick a movie. Binge on a TV series. Choose your sport. Fling some Angry Birds. Millions of folks watch Roku every day. You can too. Happy streaming from your friends at Roku.
We're back. We're back, my friends. Welcome back to commercial break. You can probably tell that I'm exhausted. I'm a little loopy today. Got my cup of coffee. Got my chalk in my hand. If you want to know the magic trick to learning how to do all this, you got to put the chalk in your coffee. Oh yeah, that just makes it perfect. All right, that was probably a little weird, wasn't it? How is the government already doing this? We were just talking about how when you try to look up, quote unquote, the effective rate of taxation out there on the American citizens, how they're not including all the taxes. They're not including what you pay on hundreds of other things on a daily basis that you probably don't even realize that you're paying in. And they do this already. So I'll give you 2 great examples of how they already do this. First off, when they're calculating inflation. Here you go. When the government calculates inflation, back in 1979, our inflation rate was through the roof. We had massive inflation. When I was born in 1980, right after Ronald Reagan won election, when they came in, they changed the way they calculate inflation, okay? What they did was they said, well, our inflation rate is like way up here. It's probably was over 22%. And that's just, the people are getting mad. They're upset that our inflation rate is this high. And how do we get it back down to a nominal 2 and 3% range that people are willing to accept? What did the government do? Did the government stop printing money? Did they tell the Federal Reserve, quit creating money, which causes inflation? That's one of the major causes of inflation. Did the government change its monetary policy to reduce the inflation rate. No, they didn't. Guess what they did? They said, well, we got an idea. Aha. Let's just stop calculating let's see. Food and energy cost.
The big one.
That's correct, Michael. That's the big one. Food and energy cost. Excuse me. I think when I look at food and energy, out of everything that we buy on a daily basis, I'm almost pretty certain. I mean, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong about what I'm about to say, please, one of you wonderful government progressives, or if someone from our audience, if I'm wrong, please call me. You can email me at chris@agendatruth.com. Please correct me, because I'm pretty positive that we need food and energy to live. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, oh my gosh, let me tell you what. We need food and energy to live. Oh my gosh, that's radical. Oh, so we're the government, so let's just stop calculating food and energy. What has happened to your food and energy costs over the last 4 years? Have they not gone up? My wife tells me, my wife does the grocery shopping, and boy, she lets me know, okay? She does not hesitate to tell me what has happened to food prices. Oh, and let alone, neither does the pump at the gas station fail to remind me what has happened to gasoline and energy prices. What about electrical rates going through the roof? Oh, so see, the government, when calculating inflation, already changes the numbers so that they can get back down here to like a 1% to a 3% rate. But that's not the real rate. What they're doing is they're taking out things. They're taking out stuff so that they can get a number that is politically acceptable, one that the public won't be outraged on. But the real inflation rate right now in the United States is closer between 16% to 21%. Now, okay, all right, Mr. Tony, we're 1 for 1. You got us on that one. What's the next one? Right? Oh, let's see. Let's get rid of off of inflation. Which, by the way, let's not get off of inflation. I just had a thought cross my mind. Yes, y'all are starting to see how the brain of Chris Tony works. Inflation, that's another hidden tax. Inflation tax. Okay? Keep that in mind there. The inflation tax. What do you mean? When the government raises inflation and prints more money, it devalues the currency. Okay? It makes your money worth less. That's another tax. It's a hidden tax that they're not calculating into what you're paying. If you really want to know the truth, I think right now the reason why a lot of Americans are really hurting is because of inflation. The cost of things that we need for mere survival are going up. Okay? And that's where we're really feeling a lot of the pain. And that's what they don't factor into. When the Federal Reserve does QE Infinity and QE1, QE2, TARP, Stimulus 1, all the stuff, printing money to give the banks that are quote unquote too big to fail, which quite frankly tells me that they're idiots because they don't know how to run a business. Otherwise, they wouldn't need the government if they knew how to run a business. What they don't factor in is the inflation that's costing you. Back in the day, you might have been able to work 1 hour and, work maybe 5 hours and fill up your entire tank. But since inflation and the price of gasoline is going up, now maybe you work 5 hours and you can only fill up half your tank in your car or truck or whatever, okay? They don't factor that in. All right, so anyway, now you understand a little bit about inflation tax. So let's move on. What's the other calculation that the government does where they pick and choose which parts they want in the calculation? By the way, I think I just heard a ton of my audience screaming at me through the cameras going, unemployment, unemployment. Yes, my friends, I heard you. I heard you right here in spirit. The unemployment rate. Yes. Right now, I think they've got the unemployment rate somewhere between 7% and 8%, right? It's kind of fluctuating in there roundabouts. Let's think about that for a minute. What about all the people? Okay, this will include all the people that are actively out there knocking on doors and submitting job applications, all right? What they do is the government said, wow, if we really factored in the real unemployment rate is anywhere between 18% to 22%, depending on which state you reside in. Now, Chris, where do you get that number? Because what the government does is they take wonderful people of wonderful working age like myself and Mike and Eric and Garrett and the rest of our people that work here typing away to fight the progressives on the blogosphere. What we have is they take out all the people that are capable that have been looking for work and couldn't find work and have lost hope and given up. All right? So if you are physically able to work and you want to work, and you've gone out there looking for a job, and you just either A, haven't accepted a job, or you have lost hope and given up looking for work, guess what? They're like, we'll just remove you. We do not count. You don't count. You're no longer existing in the government's calculation. They don't care about you. The government no longer cares about you people who want to work, who can't find work, and have lost hope and have given up. Thank you for all that hope, President Obama. You don't count. So here's another example. The government lies to you. It's propaganda. That's all it is. It's propaganda. All they're trying to do, I gotta drink my chalk coffee. All they're trying to do is sell you on something that's false, because you'll accept this. You'll accept President Obama doing a great job with the economy because our unemployment rate is back down around 7 or 8%. No, it's not. If he was doing a great job with the economy and people were finding work and this was really our unemployment rate, we wouldn't have an astronomical boom in the number of people enrolling for food stamps. Now, would we? We wouldn't have an astronomical of American citizens enrolling for Medicare, Medicaid, in record numbers. Now, would we? Wake up, my friends. Look beyond the illusion. That's the second way. So if they'll do it there and they'll do it on inflation, guess where else they'll do it? They'll do it here. When they try to tell you what your effective tax rate is. They'll do it here so that you think, maybe we should raise taxes and let them tax us more. It's not that bad. We should just create another tax and another tax and another tax and another tax. It's progressive. They progressively add another tax and another tax and another tax and another tax and another tax. And my friend, what happens is your income tax rate might be 30 to 57%, but when you factor in all the other money that you send to the government, your effective rate for the average citizen is closer to 50%, and for top earners is closer to 75%. And if we continue progressively adding this tax and that tax and this tax and that tax and this tax and that tax, then over a period of time, we will be taxed 100%. What does 100% equal? You guys are going to get to see some Chris Tony artwork here in just a second. Because you guys can see my handwriting on chalkboard, so you got to see my artwork.
10 minutes.
Here's my artwork. When we're taxed at one point at 100%, here's what we have. Hello, comrade. We'll be right back after this short break.
The emotions that people radiate and the emotions that they carry around with them, that tells a story about them. For me, photography is about telling a story because everybody has a story to tell. And if they're not willing to share it in words, they're showing it through emotion. I'm Stephanie Reeder, and I'm a lifestyle wedding photographer.
Welcome back. Thank you for that short little break there. By the way, during that short commercial break, Michael told me that next time I'm going to be using the chalkboard so much, I might not ought to wear a black suit. That's okay. let's just bathe ourselves in chalk. Yeah. There we go. My dry cleaners are great people. I'm keeping them in business. If I put chalk all over me, I'm stimulating the economy. Okay. All right. What we're going to talk about, guys, is we're going to add a new section here to our show because we want your input. What I would like you to do is weekly, we're going to have a question of the week that's going to apply to something we're talking about in the upcoming week's episode. And we would like to get your input. So next week, I'm going to be talking about something I think is very important because I see these people at the Occupy Wall Street movement, and we got this big thing about people wanting to tax the rich and down with the wealthy right now. But there's something that's bothering me. What I'm seeing a lot of is this anti-capitalist people and movement, okay? And my problem with that is our problem is not capitalism, all right? Our problem is corporatism. So next week, I'm going to break down the extreme, significant difference between capitalism and corporatism. And my fellow friends, I think all of us as a collective of one unit can come together against corporatism. And let me tell you something, next week you're not going to want to miss it because I will expose the nasty parts of things that take place in Washington, D.C. in a manner that you have probably never heard before. And boy, let me tell you what. There's only one reason why I don't fear that they won't snuff my life out. Because if they snuff my life out, they validate me. So therefore, that protects me. But I'm going to expose something that takes place in Washington, D.C. all the time. So you won't want to miss next week's episode. And I think that if we can break down the difference between capitalism and go back to the real enemy of corporatism, I think we can unify. So I have a question. And this is going to tie into unions. So the question of the week is this. What do you think about unions? And if you're in a union, how is your union working for you? And what I would like you to do is email me your answers and title the subject question of the week and email me at Chris, C-H-R-I-S, @agendatruth.com. And what we'll do is some of the answers will be on both sides. I'll show both sides of whatever comes in. We'll be happy to share some of those answers on next week's episode as we dive in to the difference between capitalism and corporatism and talking about unions. And believe it or not, I think you're going to be surprised at what you may hear. All right? So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for putting up with my shenanigans today. I'm going to go eat some more chalk. We'll see you next week.